everyone, welcome to Show and Tell. Today we have another exciting project for you. My name is Aichabash. I'm a cloud advocate at Microsoft. Today my colleague Lee is joining me. Hi Lee, how are you?
Hi, Raisha. How are you? I'm very well. So I'm Lee Stott. I'm another cloud advocate who's a colleague of Aisha's. And I've been working with students across the world in our Microsoft Student Ambassador programs, building really exciting capstone projects. So today we want to showcase some of those projects to you, the audience, and hopefully you'll find these really interesting to get started on your M365 Power Platform development journeys.
Yes, exactly. So let's have Japhlet over. Hi Japhlet, welcome to our session. So how are you doing? Can you introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. Good morning. It's morning here in Nigeria. I am Japhlet. I'm a Gold Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador and a computer science graduate at the University of Benin here in Nigeria. I love working with Microsoft 365 and Power Platform, which is Microsoft's local development tool. And I get to talk more, empower students in the Student Ambassador community as a league leader to make use of Microsoft 365 and Power Platform. I also get to talk about artificial intelligence and the amazing things you can do with artificial intelligence. Together, over the years as a Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador, I've been able to empower thousands of people to achieve more. Thank you so much for having me, Aicha and Lee.
Yeah, of course. So we can't wait for you to hear about your project. I guess you have a really exciting project. Did you know that I was student ambassador 10 years ago?
Wow,
I was
that's
actually
amazing.
student ambassador a very long time ago, and I know how cool projects you guys build. So Japhlet has one of these, and we will just learn more about his project. Can you introduce us your project? What is the name of your project, and why initially you decided to build something like this?
Okay, thank you very much. So I discovered a problem for us in the student ambassador community and Microsoft as an organization generally. Before they make major changes to the systems, before they make major changes to programs, they get to ask for reviews from employees, they get to ask for reviews from student ambassadors. I remember when we had to transition for the Microsoft Student Partner Program into the Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador Program, we asked for reviews. What do we need to change? What would we like to see in the coming year? Regularly to, we get to, we're asked all of these questions to get our inputs. This is what is known as engaging in a professional world or in an organizational world, engaging your employees. But for us as Microsoft Learn Student Ambassadors, engaging us and making sure our inputs are important. So I ran a survey and realized that 53% of employees in the United States are not really engaged. And because they are not engaged, it affects the way they work. They just show up to work because that's what they are told to do. Even worse, in South Africa, just 9% of employees are engaged. These affect the general workforce. These organizations do not get as much as organizations who engage their employees more. And I also discovered that having a thriving culture, just as Microsoft's culture, would go a long way in making organizations better. And then I made a contrast with organizations who currently um, who engage their employees. And then I discovered that these organizations, these business units, realized 41% reduction in absenteeism, and then there's a 17% increase in productivity of employees. This is an amazing feat. And so each organization needs to make use of this. But how do they make use of this? How do they create a solution that would enable them get the inputs of their employees whenever they need to? And that was the reason why I created anonymous survey solution. Now, what this solution does is it makes use of Microsoft's Power Platform, Microsoft's local development to capture feedbacks regularly from employees of organizations. And then what it does is it tries to pick specific information. For example, it asks these employees how they are feeling, how their work is going, how their work-life balance is. The end goal of this is to create a culture of engagement so organizations can make can have better insights and make better decisions. For
Okay, so
yeah,
before
so
we
I'll
jump
proceed from
in,
there.
um, I just want to ask, like, this solution is really useful for many organizations, but do you think this would be useful in programs like Student Ambassador Program, for example? I think they would be also super useful when it comes to the student programs, or, for example, programs like MVPs and so on. So what do you think?
Yeah, definitely this would go a long way in making it a lot easier. So for the student ambassador program, we already have this model, not exactly the same solution, but then there's always this engaging, and there's this regular engagement that goes on, regular capturing of feedback from students, uh, which gets to make the program better.
Yeah, and Lee, I always think about the institutes when it comes to these sort of survey solutions. Do you think this will be useful for institutes, colleges as well?
Yeah, definitely. So, the whole reason for, trying to capture feedback, as Japhlet said, is to make services better. So if you think about this from an institution's perspective, you've got the academic institution who wants to understand the NSAT of students, or the satisfaction of students doing their courses. But you also have things like clubs and societies where
Oh
students are
yeah.
actually working together to make their clubs and societies better. So again, we wanted to create a solution that was really a template that anyone could copy, change the questions, re-implement, and have that anonymous way of gathering feedback, but then also providing the data insights and telemetry from a management perspective to understand their community, their audience, their class, their colleagues, and what sort of sentiment they had around the activities they were doing. So I'm really excited by this. The whole purpose of these projects is to give the students a great experience, to build a solution, and then showcase that as a template that others can adapt, utilize, and reuse. So let's see how you did it, Japhlet.
Great. So this solution was built in two ways. First, making use of Power Apps, which is part of Microsoft's Power Platform. Again, Microsoft's Power Platform is Microsoft's local development platform. And with Power Apps, organizations can build enterprise solutions, enterprise applications, so applications that are used within their organization. So the Power application connects to SharePoint, which is more of like the database. And then from SharePoint, the data stored there can be visualized with Power BI. But then, just in case you want to make it more interactive, organizations could decide to make use of the Power Virtual Agents, which would enable them build more of like a chatbot. And then with Power Automate, it picks the responses from the chatbots and uploads on SharePoint, and then they can visualize with Power BI.
That's great. So I guess bots are really popular these days. So having two options is really good because some people really like using the app version, but there are lots of people who like to engage with bots and answer the same questions through the bot. I guess giving two different experience to the user is a really good way of building the solution. So can you show us the real solution? How did you build it? I'm really excited to see what is the outcome of this overview.
Great. So I'll show you now. Now, here's the solution I built. First thing I did was I created a SharePoint online list. SharePoint online list is more of like a database. And then what it does is all of the responses filled by your employees or participants is recorded here in real time. So whether they're interacting with the Power application or they're interacting with the bot, the responses are immediately stored here. First column covers the department the employee is responding from. And then there are 4 questions. The goal of these 4 questions is to find out how the employee is feeling about his team and about work. So the first question is, do you feel good about your current work life balance? Do you feel like a true part of the team? Do you feel like you are heading the right direction? And do you feel energized about your work? Now, for each of these responses, the participant or the employee can pick either 0, meaning he doesn't feel or she doesn't feel good, or 5, which means he or she feels very good about these questions. And from here, all I did was integrate into Power App, and then with Power Apps, I designed this interface. It basically has 3 pages, 3 screens that we want our employees to interact with as short as possible. We don't want them to spend too much time on the survey so they don't lose the enthusiasm, they don't lose they would feel reluctant to fill it in. So when they get this first page, you just click get started, and what happens is it takes them to this screen where they can fill in their department. So I'm going to just fill in details. Let's impute here agriculture just for the sake of this demo. And then for each of the questions, you can either pick 0 to 5. So I'll pick 3. Do you feel like a true part of your team? I'll pick 4. Do you feel like you're heading in the right direction? I'll pick 1. Do you feel energized about your job? Here I'll pick 2. And then I would submit. Immediately I submit, there is this success screen. And when I head over to SharePoint, I would reload this. You will notice that the response from that employee is in real time uploaded here, as you can see. Now, for the second part, where we have the bot, headed over to Power Virtual Agents, then created a, a trigger. So whenever the user interacts with the bot and then inputs any of these phrases, the user starts brings these details up and then asks the questions related to the survey. So I'll just test it out here so you see how it works. So I'll click take survey, I'll type in take survey. And then the first thing we decide our bot to do is to thank the employee for making out time to take the survey. Then it informs the employee that 0 stands for the lowest and 5 stands for the highest. And the first question is, which department do you work with? So here I'm going to impute human resources. And then the first question it's going to ask after this is, do you feel good about your current work/life balance? The user could decide to pick from here or impute the number he or she wants. So I'll just click 4. And then it goes over to the next question. Do you feel like a true part of your team? I would impute 2 and then submit that. And then the next question is, do you feel like you are heading in the right direction as a team? Here I would impute 5. Moves over to the last question, which is, do you feel energized about your job? Here I'll impute 4. And then what happens is it thanks the user for doing that. With the aid of Power Automate, if you notice from this section, it automatically picks all of those responses and takes them over to SharePoint. Let's see if the responses have been uploaded in SharePoint yet. Then I'll show you what the flow is all about. So you can find this new response, human resources, and all of the details. Now let's go back to our bot and let's see how we built that. So again, with the aid of Power Virtual Agent, Power Automate, sorry, I connected with Power Virtual Agent and then was able to pick all of those responses.
So while this is loading, Japhlet, a question for you. The way you've built this at the moment is using the SharePoint as a data source, but that data source could be any data from the Microsoft Dataverse. It could be Excel, it could be a SQL database. And again, what's really interesting about this is that you have your Power app, and you showed that as a mobile app. That could be a mobile app, it could be a web app, it could be embedded into a web page. And the same again for your bot. You've used Microsoft Power Virtual Agent, so that could be a bot within Teams, it could be a bot within Discord, it could be a bot within WeChat. So again, it's giving the users the opportunity to fill these surveys in for any different type of device or platform that that organization or department or society is using. So do you want to talk us through the Power Automate flow?
Yes. So here it picks the different inputs and the department, for example, and then the question. Something else to note is for each of these questions, I gave a unique variable name. So if you noticed, for the question relating to the department, the variable name is department. Now, each of these variable name is what we called here. So department, it's taking note of this, and whatever response it's speaking from the bot, it's um, connecting it with that specific variable. And so we'll have the different inputs, and then the expected outputs are here. So again, which departments do you work with? And in this section, what we'll do is would input each of the categories, each of the sections, each of the variables. So for the question, which department do you work with? Have the departments, and then do you feel good about your current work/life balance? And that's question one. Do you feel like a true part of your team? That's question, sorry, that's question two. And then, do you feel like you are heading in the right direction as a team? This is question three. Do you feel energized? This is question four. So I'm picking each of these, it's returning each of those values as the response. And then what I did next was, with all of these details, it automatically creates an item, a new item in SharePoint, connected the SharePoint address, the specific list I created on SharePoint. And then for each of the sections, each of the columns, I imputed a response, as you can see here. And once I test and run this, I impute my responses in Power Virtual Agent, it automatically creates this. Now,
Awesome.
from here, once I have created my Power application, my bot, integrated the Power Automate, how do I visualize this? How do I get to see how this works? You could do it in two ways. First, you could head over here, click on Power BI, and then you can visualize the list. Or what you could decide to do if you have Power BI desktop on your computer is open up Power BI desktop and then you would be able to visualize the data. So again, this is the Power BI online service. It's really easy. In real time, I can see all of the visualizations, and then I can adapt it to whatever situations, to whatever circumstances, to whomever I am presenting it to. I can adapt my visualizations.
So again, this is a great way from that management side of a club, a society, an organization to actually understand the sentiment of their organization. So again, this could be published on an internal SharePoint site, on a web app, on a mobile app, so that the organizers or owners can go, okay, yep, we're in a good place. People are feeling happy. People are feeling empowered. And again, what was really great about the demo you showed was that it's simply just a text question. So if you wanted to adapt this template to be different questions, you just change question 1 to question 4 and give it a different title. And again, if you don't have department, you wanted person's name or you wanted another opportunity, you can just quickly edit that in the schema. So this was the whole purpose of why we built these as a template solution. So great demo.
Yeah, great demo, Japhlet. And I always think about our own organization, and we heavily use Microsoft Teams, of course, in the organization. I think about our advocacy group and having this Power App as a tab in the advocacy group, or having the Power Virtual Agent as a part of the basically bot in one of the groups we have. I think that would be super useful. And I guess this could be really used in our organization too. And also tracking all these changes, the data flow from the Power BI would be really, really giving a good data to the management, I assume. So,
Yes, so one of the things that Japhlet has built is actually the Teams integration piece. I think that's what he's just going to show us now. So again,
okay.
we talked about the ability to have this on different channels. We built this exactly, you said, Aisha, to be part of a Teams group. So a user can go in, ask for a survey, and also Japhlet's built a service that will actually do this on a timed basis. So you'll be able to say to students or organizations, you want to send a survey on Tuesday at 10 a.m. and it will automatically appear in someone's Teams channel.
And this can be not only used for the feedback, I guess the same template can be used for, let's say, if you want to change anything in the organization and if you want to do a survey to get opinion from the group of people, you can also use this for a period of time, as you said, Lee. Maybe for a week, everyone joins the survey and we collect all the data in the SharePoint list and we're good to go.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. So there are lots of use cases. Like Lee mentioned, organizations can adjust to whatever circumstances works for them. So I would run you through how this was uploaded in on Microsoft Teams. So, for example, I have my organization and I need everybody in the organization to make use of this. All I did was add as a tab from Power Apps. I could share and then add to Microsoft Teams as a tab, which you can find here. Again, all of these, how I went through all of these, how I created all of these is in the GitHub documentation. You could check it out. So for the Power App application, um, participants just have to come here, and when they click this, they can interact with the Power application. Same process that we went through while here in Power Apps is the same process they would have to go through here. Interacting with just 3 screens, filling their responses, and immediately those responses are updated on SharePoint. But then for Power Virtual Agents and the bots, all they have to do is they come over to the app section, and then in the app section, they search for the survey solution bot, which we have already shared from Power Virtual Agent, we have shared on Microsoft Teams. So this is it. So all they need to do at specific time when they are sent the reminder is come over to the application, and fill in the responses. Now, just the same way I walked you through the responses, the way it works in Power Virtual Agent, that is exactly the same way it works here. So let me quickly show you. So participants come over here and they input a trigger phrase. And then the moment they input this trigger phrase, it runs them through the whole process. Thank you. Which department do you work with? So this time we're going to input engineering. And then they run through the other questions. And the moment they do all of the responses, they complete the survey, all of the responses are picked and then stored on SharePoint. Now, Lee also mentioned that majority of times you need to send reminders out to your employees or to your participants to inform them to take the survey. And what I did was design a Power Automate flow different from the one I designed for the bots. And what this flow does is it sends a reminder to each participant in the Teams channel to take the survey, making use of an adaptive card. So what the first step in the flow is I scheduled it to run at a specific time, Tuesday by 9 a.m. in the morning. So that's the first thing employees get to see when they resume at work. It posts in a channel as a flow bot. The specific channel I want it to post in is the general channel for the Empower series team. So Empower series was the demo name I used for the whole organization. So the reason why I posted it in the general section is because that is where definitely all employees in the organization would be. So that's why I'm posting it to this specific channel. And then I have the code for the adaptive card. Now in the documentation, I included this demo code, but just in case you need to design yours to suit your needs, you could head over to adaptivecards.io. Again, all of these details are in the documentation, and then design yours to suit you. So what I did next was save this and then manually trigger it. So for the sake of this demo, um, what I would do is I would make it to run every 1 hour so we could see how it goes. So I will test this and ensure that it's running. So again, once it's running, you don't have to come back to save and test again, except you need to make or you have made new changes to the flow. It will just keep running if you do not make changes to it. And then I'll run this flow. And when I head over to Microsoft Teams, the specific channel general, you notice there's a new message. I'm sorry, let's head over to the post. And the adaptive card will be shared. So again, the content of the adaptive card is just to remind employees how they can fill in their responses. They could either decide to do so by visiting the survey solution tab in the general channel, that is this, of Empower series team. Or what they could do is search for survey solutions, as I mentioned earlier, head over here, search for survey solutions, add it to their Microsoft Teams, and then just, go over here, input their responses. So participants or employees don't forget they need to fill in their responses. They don't forget that they need to fill in the survey when they need to.
The other key thing as well, which was built into this, was that an employee can only fill in the survey once. So again, there's logic in the survey that you can't just batter the survey with lots of responses. It will only take one response from each individual, which I thought was a really nice feature as well, because you don't want to have skewed surveys for people who were too happy or too unhappy.
Yeah, I guess the solution is a full package. Each angle is designed for, including the reminder with 2 different experiences as web, mobile, and as well as Power Virtual Agents. It's like a full pack that if you want to try this out in your own organization, or let's say in your own student club, then you just get the solution, and everything will be considered on behalf of you. Japhlet, this was an awesome demo. So what if I want to build the same solution for my own organization? Is the solution open source? Can developers go and find your solution anywhere in GitHub, or do you have any documentation around that?
Sure, they can. So definitely everyone has access to build their solutions. We have a GitHub documentation already. You can see the link on the screen, aka.ms/pp samples. When you head over there, you would find documentation for this specific solution, and then you can change it, you can make changes, and make it suitable for your organization.
Awesome. And we also have so many learning modules and samples available rightly in Microsoft sites. Would you like to just let us know where can people learn more about all these technologies like Power Platform, Teams, and so on?
Definitely, yeah. So Microsoft Learn is a great resource for doing hands-on labs and workshops. Each module is typically about 1 hour in length, but it also has lots of exercises in there. So if you're an academic listening to this, it's a great use of primers. Again, if you're a student, it's a great resource, or a learner, great resource to get started understanding Microsoft technologies. So there's a full Power Platform learning path there. There's a full M365 learning path there as well. We also have some other great resources. So we have the Microsoft Educator developer blog. So ambassadors like Japhlet have got lots of stories on there, lots of samples and demos. There'll be a blog about this episode and the content which is available on the repo. Again, the repo is excellent because Japhlet has actually built this out as a workshop as well. So you can actually just follow along and re-implement this solution. Or if you want to run this as a workshop on your campus or to your employees, it's actually built in that way as well. So a huge thank you to Japhlet. And, if you're interested in understanding more about what Microsoft Learn Student Ambassadors are, head over to studentambassadors.com. We're always looking for student ambassadors from around the globe. This is a worldwide program. So I hope you found this episode exciting. And thank you, Japhlet.
Yeah, so this was a really exciting project, and I'm sure lots of developers, students, institutes will find this scenario really interesting, and I'm sure they will go ahead and try Japhlet's workshop. So Japhlet, thanks for showing us your amazing solution, and Lee, thank you for joining me in this session. And this is all from us, folks. Thanks for watching this episode, and see you in the next one. Bye.